Hello guys, BJ on Game Day here. You got Brent, you got Joshy as always. Back to do another recap, round 20. Joshy, how'd you go, mate? Come on.
Mate, massive score, huge score. I managed to pick up 1,461 points. So, ranked me 44th in the country overall for the week, which was nice. Mate, everything just went right. It was just a week where my worst player was Cody Walker, and he was pretty bad, but mate, tons all over the park. I think obviously there was a lot of high scores last week. We saw, I think it was maybe 9 individual players all hit a ton. And I think the massive score for the week was 1,527. So, yeah, some really big scores out there. It managed to jump me up. I was just inside the top 5,000. Now I'm sitting 2,400 odd. So, really happy with that. Nice to make a charge at the right end of the season. But I did use 2 of my last 3 trades. I'm only sitting on 1 trade left. So, last week I dropped Laffey for Valentine Holmes. And then about 5 minutes before kickoff, I brought in Lachlan Fitzgibbon for Simon Mannering. Just been sort of talking about Fitzgibbon all season, and I was a bit surprised when he came back the week before and hit 105. I thought, obviously they named him on the bench that week, I thought he'd come back and do his penance, but he looked awesome, and I just couldn't see why he couldn't continue that form. And mate, last week again he was sensational. I think scored in the second minute and 2 tries in the first half, and I was sort of laughing. So, mate, yeah, really happy with 1,461. I'd actually never got over 1,300 before, so it was nice to sort of clear that boundary and, yeah, go well on the way. After that, at one stage I had my sights set on 1,500. I was hoping, but down dates and that took me back to 1,461. So, what about yourself, mate?
Oh, mate, nothing in that realm of 1,400, 1,220, so... Yeah, I mean, relative to the week, as you said, it was a big week, so it wasn't the best score. I think I had SJ as captain. It looked like it was a brilliant move early, but didn't eventuate in the end. Can't complain. Dropped a couple hundred spots in the end, sitting about 2,600. So the 1,000 dream is still alive, but got a bit of work to do in the next 5 weeks. I think sitting on 2 trades, got about 50 grand in the bank. Pretty happy to sit on them at the moment. I think the last 2 trades I made a couple of weeks ago has saved my weeks, and when I brought in Latrell and Essan Masters, because they've both killed it the last couple of weeks. So going to sit back and just see what happens here, and hopefully I can keep banging out the 1,200s. If I can, 3 weeks in a row, 1,200, I'll take it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Look, I mean, and that's the key now, is obviously to have that squad you already want. Maintaining from here on in is just regards to injuries. So we haven't seen too many key ones lately. Fingers crossed that sort of trend keeps continuing. But just a lot of the same players in the same teams. Really, we've seen those core players step up. You know, blokes like Damien Cook and everyone like that. They're just, everyone sort of should have that core set of probably 9 or 10 players in their team. And then you've got 7 or 8 pods that are fitting in around those. You mentioned that you captained SJ. Yeah, look, mate, I left some points out there as well. I didn't captain Cook. I think a lot of people did. Despite the 1,461, I chucked the big C on Nathan Cleary. And that was a little bit lucky, because I think with about 20 minutes to go, he was sitting on 20 points or something, and Penrith scored 4 tries in 6 minutes, and he just went berserk as well. So, yeah, a little bit lucky there for me. A little bit different this week. I'm not too sure who people are going to captain. Obviously, we've got the biggest matchup of the week being the Rabbits and the Storm on Friday night. That's in the prime time slot. And do you just stick with Damien Cook? You know, like the Storm look that good. They look like they've just completely peaked for the right time of the season. Can Damien Cook go large, or is this the week where he chucks in a 50?
And that's the thing. I mean, I think given it's a Friday night, people are probably going to loop with the vice with Cookie, I'd imagine. I mean, there's no standouts on the Thursday in the Brisbane Canterbury game, maybe a Martin or something like that. But, I mean, I couldn't blame anyone for going Cookie. I think there's still some options out there. You've got the Chooks taking on the Cows, obviously. You've also got maybe some potential out there with a Fitzgibbon against the Tigers again, if you've got someone like that.
Yeah, look, I think anyone who might have Ponga this week, if sort of he comes back and can hit his straps. The Tigers look a little bit weak over the last few weeks, and I think the Knights, we pointed out before, I think the Knights are just going to get better as the season sort of finishes. I think they're going to get well clear of that wooden spoon, purely because they're starting to get that core of the team back. It hurts that Connor Watson's out, but Jack Coggers looked really good in the six. So I think that'll help their chances.
Yeah, disappointing loss on Friday. The first half was completely...
Tell me about it, I tipped you bastards.
Nothing like the second. It was quite... And just to lose it with 2 minutes to go was just sick. But at least we're in the running for top 8 or anything realistically. But hopefully we don't get that spoon. Surely not. But
I don't think you will. I don't think you will. I think... look, I don't know who's got it, but I just don't think it'll be the Knights. I think probably Para will have it wrapped up. But mate, I reckon captain choice, I might just go Nathan Cleary again.
Yeah.
I think Penrith against the Raiders. Look, the only hesitation there is I hate being so far behind when it comes to the last match of the weekend, and you get to sort of like that 4 o'clock spot that the Panthers and Raiders will be taking. But I just think Penrith will towel up the Raiders. I really think the Raiders have given up. I don't think there's too much energy there. Even obviously with Joshy Hodgson coming back sort of 4 or 5 weeks ago, he sort of started to peak a little bit. So I think, I think I might just stick it on Clear. I love that he got the goal kicking back. I think there's a little bit of a connection there with his form and the goal kicking. I don't know. I think he's just a better player when he's got that role. He sort of starts to take the game a little bit more serious and lead from the front. And obviously with Jimmy Maloney, Phil Gould's come out during the week saying he's got a few injury concerns still from Origin. That may play a part in sort of how effective he is and Cleary taking charge. Yeah,
I think maybe confidence as well. If he's kicking goals, he's probably maybe a bit more confident, something like that. And I think long term, obviously, Maloney's probably not going to be there for that much longer. So Cleary's definitely the future there. So yeah, I agree. I think Cleary is one of the best running halfbacks in the competition. And when he's confident, he does that. The Canberra game, I'm not sure. I don't really know how to read that Penrith-Canberra game at the moment. I guess the one thing I will say, which is quite interesting, is I actually really like having a captain on the Sunday. And sometimes I might just go a captain on the Sunday just for the simple fact that it means I've still got my captain to come on a Sunday. It's weird. There's always something about those games towards the end of the round. There's just something can
Sunday afternoon footy. I mean, it's dry footy, isn't it?
Look at the Chooks on the weekend, and you wouldn't have probably predicted Chooks to hammer the Dragons, even though Dragons are a bit out of form. But I mean, you look at that game, you look at Ferguson, Latrell, Teddy. It was an absolute slaughtering in terms of Supercoach.
Mate, I got to that game and I just cleared 1,000 with 4 to go. I had SJ earlier in the day, and I thought SJ could have been anything. I think after he scored that try in 15 minutes, beautiful step. He was attacking the line. You know, he sort of hit 45 points in 15 minutes, and I thought, shit, he's going to turn up here and go massive. And then the Warriors just disappeared. Like, they just had nothing. But yeah, I had those 3 for the Roosters, which all turned up, which is obviously nice to have. I'm still having nightmares about SJ. I don't know what's going on there.
The thing that shitted me off with that, and I had him as captain, so I actually watched that game thinking it was going to be a carve up. And within the first couple of touches he had, he scored a try, but didn't get a hand on him. The thing I started to notice is, first of all, like when they did go that right edge where he was sitting, it was like he had so much room and space, time and space. I thought he's gonna at least get a couple today or set a couple up. That was within the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes. They stopped going to him for whatever reason, and part of that reason I think is they had Tavana at hooker. They also had Cole Lawton, I think his name is, whatever his name is. He just goes the other way. He there were really several times where Blake Green and SJ were set up for a play on the side, the preferred side for SJ, and he would just go the other way. He scored a try by going himself. I think it was their second try. In the second half, I can't tell you how many times he did it. And it was doing my head in. I know someone like SJ in like a situation where they were down by a couple of tries, he has to be demanding the ball. And he didn't do that, but I think maybe with Isaac Luke not there, they just lost that direction in terms of they should have been going to SJ so much more. And he just didn't get the ball. He just, in that second half, I don't think he would have got half a dozen touches.
the other thing I looked at was, and I think the Warriors might be burned out a little bit. We talked about it at the start of the season, and it's been mentioned on plenty of media outlets how fit they were, how their fitness trainer over there had just got them so prepared for the season. The weather on the Gold Coast on the weekend was 23 degrees and humid as hell. Now, we're stuck smack bang in the middle of winter. You go over to New Zealand and it's barely reaching 5 degrees during the day. I think the Warriors just might have been gassed. I mean, it got to that second half and there was no go forward. There was no... Stephen Kearney called his team soft, and I think that's exactly what it was. They weren't hardened for the occasion. And that's probably not what you expect out of a top 8 team at this time of the year.
Not as much as they had to play for as well. Like the Titans had nothing to play for, to be fair. The Warriors get a win there. They pretty much wrap up their spot.
That win would have maintained that 6-point gap between 8th and 9th. It was a huge win.
To have that much to play for and come out and put that sort of effort is just... I don't even know what to think of the Warriors now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
They've got... Who have they got this week?
Dragons.
Dragons, I mean, they're both teams that need a win to get their confidence back up. That's going to be a really interesting game. I mean, you look at Supercoach wise with you got Widdop. Most people have got Widdop and very unhappy with him. And even SJ, I mean, if you've got backup halves, can you not play them? Do you play them both against each other? Is it a game where they could both score 20, 30 points? I just don't know how to read into that one. That's going to be a bit of a call this week. I think with Walker against the Storm, you might be reluctant to play Walker.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some interesting calls there.
I mean, look, it was interesting to watch the Dragons against the Roosters last week. Obviously, the Roosters, again, like the Storm, are hitting their form. They've really sort of waylaid any of those fears we had at the start of the season that their attack was off, everything like that. The Dragons have gone the other way. Their attack looks terrible. They look stunted. They just look slow. Benny Hunt obviously had a bit of a return to form there on the weekend, scoring a double, took the line on himself, and sort of he reminds you how good a player he can be. It's just so much in between the good games and the bad games for him. But yeah, you're right, mate. That half's choice this week, I actually considered it. Look, about 4 weeks ago, I think I got rid of Cameron Munster to bring in Gareth Widdop. That was after I think I captained him and he scored 14 points, and he just pissed me off, so I got rid of him. But there's no denying Munster's obviously in cracking form. Considering those guys and their matchups this week, I mean, I've only got one trade left, and it sounds silly to burn it doing something like that, but the Storm have got the Rabbits. I mean, he may just step up. They've got Cronulla next week, so it's not too easy to run those 2 weeks. But their last 3 weeks, I think they played Para, the Gold Coast, and the Knight, or whoever it is. But it's a few fairly easy teams that they really could score points on.
I totally agree, and I think I mean, I know you said you had him, and I think a couple of weeks ago I said he was probably one guy I would like to get in if I could, but he's still going to have those games where they don't go to his edge, but he's one of those guys, once he's demanding the footy, he can be posting back-to-back hundreds.
That combination with Jerome Hughes is getting better and better too. So we spoke about Jerome Hughes before the start of the season, how we couldn't realise he didn't have a full-time spot. He is awesome. He is really, really electrifying. And you put that together with Munster, and then Billy Slater's always there as well, there's a lot of X factor in that Melbourne Storm team. Yeah,
they got so much, and then obviously Smith at hooker. I mean, they pulled off Slater and Smith early last week as well. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think at this point of the year, you really want to refine your squad to have those guys you want, and you're not going to want to reluctantly have to play a Widdop or a Walker. But I think people might be forced into it this week, unless people like yourself want to use their last trade or one of their last couple. But I think Munster's definitely try getting. Let's
talk about your team for a second. Obviously, 2 trades left. We've got 5 weeks to go. For a lot of people out there, they're head-to-head players. We aspire to overall status, which is going okay this year, but not the greatest. With 2 trades left, who do you look at your team that you're not confident in? Who's the guys you've got your Damien Cooks you're never going to think you're getting rid of, but who are the guys there you're hesitant about?
Yeah, I guess part of the problem is trying to pick the right 17 out of about 19, 20 blokes, which is getting annoying because I haven't played for Feeder the last 2 weeks, which has hurt. I mean, the 3 weeks prior to that, he scored 50, so I haven't played him.
Yeah.
I think he's got some lucky attacking stats.
And that's after you captained him 4 weeks in a row earlier in the
something
year.
like that, and he got some lucky attacking stats the first week, so I thought, he's not going to do that again. And he did it again last week, so he's gone back-to-back 80 pluses or 90s roughly after back-to-back 50s, so I'm filthy about that. Reece Martin, I can't pick him.
No.
I don't know whether to play him, whether not to play him. He had an absolute blinder on the weekend in base. He's kicking goals. I just don't know how to pick him. And then
it's almost shit that he's in a Bulldogs team.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm leaving Widdop on the bench most of the time for the last sort of month. I don't think I've played Widdop, except when they played the Cowboys a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
But for me, I guess I'm starting to look at, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, you look at someone like Taumalolo, there's people like that aren't lifting their weight.
He's still the 5th highest scorer, I think, this year.
But he's just not, I don't know if it's just because the Cows are out of form, you know.
Yeah.
I think he's one. I mean, I think I'm pretty happy with the Teddy Turbo combo at fullback. I think Ponga's still got a bit of injury doubt over him with an ankle. He's been hobbling around, so I think I would have probably been thinking about Ponga, but I think I'm happy considering that.
I think Teddy sort of solidified his spot. Turbo, still a little bit of doubt there purely because of the Manly form. They play really well against Cronulla. They have a good record against Cronulla. I wouldn't look. I love my Sharkies, but it won't surprise me to see us get belted by 20 or 30 on the weekend, and him just again. It's Sunday afternoon footy. It's 2:00. It's Turbo's prime spot. He loves to play on a Sunday. So
is it Lotto Land or is it?
No, it's at Shark Bar. It's at Shark Bar.
Yeah, and probably one last one I'll call you. It's Gutherson. I've got Gutherson there. I think I just like Gutherson.
Yep.
But he's obviously a different prospect when Parra winning games versus now. He's still got really good base, which is why I'm reluctant to get rid of him. He's been held up the last couple of weeks. I've watched their games because they've been Thursday night games.
Did he score a try? I think
he did last week.
He
got like 40 or something like that. But he's an easy trade, I think, as well. They play the Titans this week, so I'm baited into holding on to him. But I mean, I don't know. I could easily trade him and leave myself with one. That's probably actually seriously something I could think about. Maybe just try and go for that pod in like a Noel Faluma or Nato Carl, those guys that can just blow up.
Yeah.
With some tries to try and pull back 100 points here or there over a couple of weeks, if not more. So
yeah. The only thing that stops me on No Faluma is, and I thought he'd be a bit more of a pod coming home, Isan is starting to learn to hold the ball rather than pass the ball. He's getting a little bit Joey Leilua-like.
Yeah.
And that's my only concern is you'll see Isan from dummy half on the line. He'll go for it himself. I just think he's getting a bit of sticky hands.
Yeah, and I think he has had a tendency to be like that majority of the time. Like I think he's been a bit better this year, but he has been a pretty white line feeder sort of a centre.
Yeah.
Which is why he's pretty good. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you can always look at a Kotrick or slip back to fullback, whether that remains. But yeah, I guess that's probably the only spot I'd actually seriously probably think about trading this week, mate, to be honest. What about you? You got any, apart from the half spot there?
Mate, look, Joey Leilua, we just touched on him there. He's probably my biggest concern. I brought him in a few weeks ago before he turned up.
You brought him in for the buys, maybe?
Yeah, and look, I thought with other Canberra players out that he'd step up in attack, and I think he has. I think he has, but you're always reluctant just because he can become a lazy player. And the closer you get to the end of the season for these teams that become out of 8 contention, just the less effort they put in.
Yeah.
It's just simple, There's nothing there to play for. They don't want to injure themselves. They're not going to have absolute blinders where they score 3 or 4 tries like you could have someone who's cracking the top 8 and playing the bottom 18. Mate, he's one. You touched on Tamalolo again. Yeah, look, the same sort of thoughts are running through my head where he hasn't been exciting. He hasn't been going large. The last 3 weeks, his minutes are slightly down. There was a few weeks there not long ago that he played 80 minutes straight. and he's gone back to sort of 50s and 60s now. So Reece Martin off the bench, I'm wondering whether I just straight sub Lolo out and put Reece Martin on. Like you said, his form's awesome. He's kicking goals. So, yeah, look, sort of the similar position to you and a lot of other people out there where you've got 19 or 20, which 17 do you put on the park? It's a pretty tough decision. So
you're almost hoping for an injury to make the decision easy, you know, because it's like, oh, good, I don't have to worry about him. So, yeah, mate. So what about the BJ on GameDay League, mate?
BJ on GameDay League. Mate, the biggest move of the week, yours truly. 1,461. Look, I've jumped up to third. I've jumped up from 6th to 3rd. Still a little ways behind Wayne and Hell's Granny. I think I'm still 270 points behind him. Wayne's still well and truly embedded in the top 1,000. I think he's ranked about 550. So he's going great guns.
It's 350 to be fair.
It's 350?
Yeah, you're 29.15. He's a good 350.
350.
So
look, I need a couple more 1,400s.
He's absolutely flying, Wayne.
Cam Coxwell jumped up to 2nd.
Good 13.30.
Yeah, good week for Cam Coxwell. Look, we all scored well. Everyone well and truly cracked the ton, like most people who did around the leagues. But the good thing was to see the league ranking jump up from 140 back into the top 100, up to 91. So hopefully the boys have got the right teams together and we can keep that ranking sort of climbing as well.
Yeah, I think looking at that, I mean, the lowest score for the week was about 1,100, so that's pretty solid. Yeah. Everyone's obviously still doing their teams and stuff like that, so good work.
And head-to-head, mate, you're still on top of the ladder?
Yeah, so Hell's Granny's got me on the weekend. If I had won that, I could have solidified top spot. He's kept the minor premiership within sight. Not that it means too much.
Yeah, Wayne still had a solid week. I think 1250 he scored.
I think at the end of the round I had him, but he got some good revisions. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I can't remember. I thought I had him.
I'm pretty sure, and I've heard people talk about this online. It was Ryan Madison.
Okay.
When Ryan Madison finished the Roosters game, I read someone's comment. I'm not sure if this was right, but they pointed out that he was on 30. He got revised to 68.
Yeah.
So he got given a try assist for Latrell's try that Latrell did everything. Yeah. Like it was a last touch every day of the week, and he got the full blown line assist. So I think, a few unicorn points there for Ryan Madison. Tommy Sangster must have him in his team or something because, I don't think he deserved to get that many. And I think the other thing was Teddy originally downdated on that Sunday night, and then he got an extra 10 points, I think, the next day as well. So that just sort of put Wayne a little bit clearer in that head-to-head match. Yeah, and so I think I've got to take on fucking Cowboys this week who need a win to give themselves a chance to make the 8, to keep in the running. So he needs a couple results or a big win. He needs his hopes to get dusted, and he needs to knock me off. I'll be trying to get a win to keep that minor premiers tag, at least clutch something with the league. But this is the last week of the head-to-head, so unfortunately Marty will not be. Let's give a shout out to Marty. Marty Lau over in Perth. Thanks for playing this season, mate. Obviously, hasn't been the best season for you. Ranked around about that 30,000 mark. At the tail end of both the head-to-head and the total points. But mate, it's been great having you comment most weeks and really get involved with the league and sort of what we can do and don't every week.
And to be fair, it's been a solid as league as well. Like it's been a tough year at times, and he's still averaging not quite 1,000, but sort of up there. So,
mate, you got these massive Supercoach addicts. Obviously, the addicts page on Facebook, we're all members of, and we love it. They've got some really, really competitive leagues. A lot of guys who really know their Supercoach. I like to think developing, we can probably turn the BJ and GameDay one into something competitive with those guys and maybe getting that top sort of 20 or 30 next season. Yeah,
and I think we didn't register it as an addicts league, which was something you do, and I think you might get something.
Yeah, so
I don't know what exactly it is, but we'll have to look into that.
Boys on the addicts page, we'll do that next season.
The only other thing I'd say is any of those guys that are sort of in the running for total points, don't forget to email bjongameday@gmail.com. Send through your details. Probably don't need to send through your bank account details just yet, but at least some form of communication, because I think
I've still got 5 weeks. Wayne, I'm coming for you.
Hopefully only going to be a lobster or 2 in the red, which would be good. So hopefully maybe
for a fair bit of fun.
Maybe you can clean out the total points and I'll keep the hat and we won't have to worry about anyone's details.
No, exactly. But that's it for this week, guys. Thanks very much for joining us. give us a like, give us a subscribe, and any tips, any comments you got, leave them down below. We'll catch you all next week.